what's caught your attention so far tonight in the just over an hour long speech?
Right. I mean, one, just the length, right? We're at an hour and you don't really get the sense that we're coming to a close anytime soon. This does seem like it's going to be, as advertised, perhaps the longest State of the Union address that we might have ever seen in the country. And it really began with kind of, traditional President Trump, right? It wasn't really prospective, it was retrospective. He was talking about how the country's, in his words, better off than it was before. Not really a lot of policy at the beginning, more just give us, the Republicans, credit, give them, the Democrats, blame.
And is there anything you and I were talking about? He did finally get to the economy. He spent a good, 25 minutes on the economy. Did you hear anything that could realistically change
Sure.
uh, any economic outlook for folks here in the mountains?
It's hard to say what might actually, he talked about $1,000 match that would come to private workers. $1,000 would be great. I don't think that's going to be a life changer for most folks in the mountains. But he did, I think, have almost a little bit of an olive branch on a ban on insider stock trading for members of Congress. That's one where Elizabeth Warren and some other Democrats stood up and applauded. So I think so far of what we've heard, that's kind of the one piece of policy that I'd say maybe has a chance of some bipartisan support.
And with regards to tariffs, of course, he's been very clear about the fact that he's going to be driving to the hoop on this,
Yeah,
no matter what the Supreme Court does. So, um, who could feel um, this the most? I mean, obviously here in Western North Carolina with farming and
sure.
manufacturing and tourism, as the president continues to say, look, regardless of what the Supreme Court just ruled, I've got other ways to do this. Who's going to feel it the most?
It's hard to say really because I'm still unclear on how he's going to do that, right? I mean, he has a U.S. Supreme Court ruling. He said he has a way around this that does not involve Congress in an address that he is giving to Congress. So this one, frankly, it's harder for me to wrap my head around. I don't quite understand how a president of the United States can just say, "Yeah, I hear you, U.S. Supreme Court, but I'm going to ignore you and do something different." We'll see how it plays out. Maybe he's right. Maybe he's got a magic policy in his back pocket. At this moment, I don't quite see it.
And again, he's not probably nowhere near being finished right now, but a lot happening around the world, with regards to what the president is trying to accomplish with Venezuela and the possibilities with Iran, and even like Greenland, and just pick and choose whatever you want to. But if you're someone from here in the mountains watching this
Yeah.
speech so far tonight, you know, what are you feeling in terms of what does this mean for my community? It does. How do you feel he's doing in terms of speaking to folks that are really just focused on their wallets and their kitchen tables?
I think that's a great question. I think a lot of it's going to come through the lens you approach the speech with. Again, a lot of it has been retrospective, right? It has been, here's what I and the Republican Party have done for you. It hasn't been a lot of, here's how I'm planning to help. And so I think it may depend on not just your station in life, but also kind of your partisan perspective, how you're viewing that. If you're viewing that as you agree with him or you disagree with him, it really just has been kind of a rerun of his greatest hits for the last year. If you liked those greatest hits before, you probably dug them tonight. Otherwise, you probably didn't.
All right, and just finally, Chris, and you've basically touched on this already, but just your overall takeaway. Again, we're only an hour in.
Right.
Just from your perspective as a
Sure.
political analyst and a professor and it's someone who knows a lot about this stuff, just your overall takeaway from just this first hour.
Sure. Just typical Trump, right? I mean, you could tell he's going off script some. You can tell that he's playing the crowd. You could tell that he's enjoying it, right? I mean, this is what infuriates people about President Trump. It's also one of the things that people love about President Trump, right? That he just doesn't give a traditional anything, including a State of the Union speech. So I think it's just more Trump that we've kind of become used to.
And one more, Chris, and this is
Yep.
sort of off script in terms of,
You're
I
good.
mean, there's the economy, which has been the focus, but he did kind of jump into healthcare. Did you hear anything, if you were still
Sure.
watching, did you hear anything? A lot of folks have always been curious about what his approach will be. Anything any takeaway for people here in the mountains that they may have heard
Sure.
tonight with regards to healthcare?
Yeah, I mean, he did talk a good bit about lowering drug costs and lowering drug prices, prescription drug prices in particular. He's got a website that he's pitching that's helping folks with that, he claims. And I think that is something that, regardless of your partisan affiliation, you should be cluing into, right? And trying to understand, is he really offering something that is going to reduce my prescription drug cost? If so, slap a D or an R next to the name, and it doesn't really matter because you're going to have more green.